It's a hard truth, but the sooner you accept it, the stronger you become. Women are not loyal to how much you do, how much you give, or how much you sacrifice. You can bend over backwards for her and she might still walk away. Why? Because her loyalty isn't tied to your effort. It's tied to how you make her feel about herself when she's with you. Nothing more, nothing less. You can buy gifts, plan perfect dates, send long texts, be available 24/7, and still lose to a man who does none of those things but who knows how to make her feel desired, seen, and emotionally charged. That's the one thing most men miss. Emotional impact outweighs logical effort. You're trying to earn her loyalty through action, but she's responding based on emotion. That's why understanding her psychology isn't a game, it's survival. Here's your question of the day. What's the hardest truth about women that made you stronger once you accepted it? Drop it in the comments. And if you're done overgiving and ready to move with clarity, type valor below. This one's not for everyone, but if you're still here, you're not like most men. Most men have been taught a lie. That loyalty is something you earn through effort, through showing up, giving more, being nice, staying consistent. And while those traits might get you appreciation or temporary attention, they rarely create the kind of loyalty you're actually looking for. The truth, a woman's loyalty is not anchored in what you do for her. It's rooted in how she feels when she's around you. This is emotional reality, not logic. You could spend months proving your value through gifts, support, long talks, and sacrifice, yet lose her to a man who gives her almost none of that, but makes her feel tension, excitement, polarity, mystery. Why? Because he taps into the emotional frequency that her feminine nature craves. Uncertainty mixed with grounded masculinity. It's the feeling of being around someone who's not trying to win her over. He's simply being himself unapologetically. Men who don't understand this spend years over-investing and under-connecting. They confuse effort with influence. But women don't stay because of how much you've done. They stay because of how much they feel. That's why cold, distant men can still have women chasing, while warm, available men get ghosted. It's not fair, but it's real. And until you accept this emotional truth, you'll keep trying harder and wondering why it never feels like enough. The answer isn't to stop giving, it's to start leading emotionally. Presence over performance, calm over clinginess, boundaries over begging. That's when she starts to feel something deeper. And loyalty, that only follows impact, not investment. She may never say it out loud, but every woman you interact with is constantly measuring you. Not by your bank account, your compliments, or your intentions, but by how you carry yourself, by the energy you bring into the room, the tone you speak with, the way you respond under pressure. There's an invisible scale always at work, and it has little to do with what you give and everything to do with how you make her feel in your presence. This scale isn't measured in logic, it's emotional. If you're too available, she senses imbalance. If you explain too much, she feels uncertainty. If your validation comes too easy, it loses value. She doesn't calculate this with words, she feels it. The man who keeps his frame, who speaks less but means more, who gives her space to lean in instead of filling every nuance. That man stays in her mind, not because of what he did for her, but because of what she felt in herself around him. Think about it. The men women chase aren't always the ones who treat them the best. They're the ones who subtly hold emotional power. They don't ask to be chosen, they choose. They're not afraid to walk away. And that energy, balanced, calm, focused, puts weight on the scale without a single word. You don't control the scale directly, but you control what feeds it, your mindset, your energy, your standards. When you shift from overgiving to self-grounding, from chasing to leading, that invisible scale starts tipping in your favor. Not because you played a game, but because you finally stopped playing hers. Every man has heard it or lived it. But I was good to her. I treated her right. I did everything for her. And yet, she left. Maybe for someone colder, someone less consistent, someone who didn't deserve her. And here's the hard truth most men don't want to hear. Being a good man doesn't guarantee loyalty. It doesn't even guarantee interest. Because in her world, goodness without grounded strength often reads as weakness. The problem isn't kindness. The problem is that most good men are trained to give, without ever learning how to hold their frame. They confuse approval with affection. They give affection without creating attraction. They overextend, hoping to prove their worth instead of sitting calmly in the awareness that their worth doesn't need to be proven. And that energy, though well-meaning, drains polarity. Women don't leave good men because they're too nice. They leave because those men often don't create emotional charge. They don't spark tension. They don't provide the edge, the mystery, the gravity that makes a woman feel feminine. Instead, they show up like emotional servants, hoping loyalty can be bought through sacrifice. But loyalty doesn't respond to effort. It responds to energy. What these men miss is simple but painful. It's not about doing more. It's about being more rooted, more selective, more disciplined. When a man leads with grounded calm, not people-pleasing, he creates attraction without needing to sell himself. And that's when good becomes undeniable. Not because he gave everything, but because he gave nothing away that cost him his self-respect. Most men are trained to think that effort equals reward. The more you give, time, attention, gifts, support, the more she should value you, right? But that logic doesn't hold when it comes to attraction. In relationships, it's not the investment that keeps her locked in. It's the emotional impact. The moments that stir something in her, the way your presence changes the atmosphere, the tension she feels just being near you. That's what she remembers. That's what keeps her coming back. You can't buy emotional impact, you create it. And it's rarely about what you say. It's about what you signal. The man who walks with purpose, who pauses before he speaks, who looks her in the eye with calm intention. He creates emotional weight. She feels something in her body when he's around, not because he's doing more, but because he's being more. Solid, quietly powerful, unshakable. High investment without emotional charge eventually turns into obligation. She'll appreciate you, but she won't crave you. That's why so many men get stuck in the friend zone or in almost relationships. They're giving, hoping to earn interest. But she's not choosing based on effort. She's choosing based on how you affect her. If there's no edge, no presence, no polarity, there's no desire. This doesn't mean stop giving. It means stop giving first. Lead with energy. Let your presence speak. And when you do give, your time, your attention, your words, it means something. It carries weight. That's what she stays loyal to. Not the man who does the most, but the one who makes her feel the most, even in silence. Loyalty can't be bought, begged for, or secured through effort. It's earned through standard. And here's what most men never realize. The only standard that keeps a woman truly invested is the one you hold with zero negotiation. Not toward her, but toward yourself. When a man lives by a code, his own values, boundaries, and emotional discipline, he becomes the kind of presence a woman doesn't just want, she respects. When you make your mission your focus, not her mood, she feels it. When you don't tolerate disrespect, not with anger but with distance, she senses you're not emotionally dependent. And when you don't flinch when she pulls away, when you stay composed through tension, when you lead moments instead of chasing reassurance, that's when loyalty becomes effortless. Not because you demanded it, but because your standards demand it. Too many men lower themselves to hold on to someone who isn't rising with them. They bend their identity, shrink their needs, mute their voice, all in the name of keeping peace or staying desirable. But peace bought through self-betrayal always ends in resentment and eventually rejection. A woman can't stay loyal to a man who doesn't stay loyal to himself. The truth is, when you live by principle, you stop trying to keep women. You start choosing which ones deserve to stay. And when a woman feels she's in the presence of a man who won't abandon his own center for anyone, she stops testing and starts trusting. Not because he proved himself, but because he made one thing clear. You can walk, but I will never lower the standard I walk with. No matter how much you give, how consistent you are, or how good you've been. If a woman doesn't feel something real in your presence, she won't stay. That's the truth most men learn the hard way. Her loyalty isn't earned by effort. It's triggered by emotional impact, by your standard, and by the silent message you carry. I don't need to prove my worth, I live it. When you stop over-investing and start leading with presence, everything shifts. You begin to attract not through performance, but through power. You stop being available to women who only show up for the benefits and start standing tall in your own value. That's when you stop asking why she left and start realizing why she couldn't stay where she didn't belong. If this hit differently, drop the word valor in the comments. At Valoris, we don't teach men to chase. We show them how to command presence without saying a word. Stay calm, stay focused, stay undeniable.